My name is Fingleton and I am the embedded artist with this project in Dingle, which is called Corca Dhuibhne Inbhuanaithe, or a creative imagining. And it's one of 15 projects, 15 Creative Ireland projects looking at creative climate action. And I suppose the idea of the projects are to spark people's imagination about climate change. It sounds a bit strange to be talking about sparking people's imagination about something scary, but the idea is to engage artists to start the conversation in a creative way, I suppose. So it's about how can we work together to imagine a sustainable future for farmers here on the Dingle Peninsula that hopefully will be transferable to farmers elsewhere. So the project is funded by the Government of Ireland through Creative Ireland. And what's really nice about this project is that it's like a partnership. So we have MaREI in Cork with Claire Watson. And Claire played a really important role in terms of evaluating and encouraging us to reflect the whole way through the project. We have the Dingle Hub, Dingle Peninsula, and then we have the Green Arts Initiative with Katrina Fallon, and Katrina's coordinating the project, which has just been amazing because she's really just been committed for years in terms of helping farmers transition. So she has a lot of trust built up already in the community, as does the Dingle Hub. So that kind of partnership, and then the embedded artist is part of that as well. So there's 4 of us, we meet every week. We have an amazing steering group of farmers who were the initial farmers who recruited the other farmers, and that whole team, it's really a team. And that's been really, really great, because oftentimes artists, we're kind of out on our own and we're isolated, and it's just really good to have that expertise around a table every Friday morning on Zoom. So this project started with building, I suppose, on the work that was done already here in the Dingle Peninsula with farmers and the West Kerry Sustainable Energy Community, and amazing farmers like Dingle Galvin who've already been doing a lot of this work. And they, together with Katrina Fallon, Dingle Peninsula and Claire Watson, put together this proposal, and they recruited me, and then together we recruited 10 farmers, and we deliberately chose farmers who were either starting the journey or not started really at all in terms of the transition journey. And it was to engage people who might not have ever had the chance to talk about climate change, biodiversity or transition, and to give them a chance to come on the journey with us. So we didn't know where it was going to end up, and probably we still don't know where it's going to end up, but it was about giving people the chance to work together, identify what it is they wanted to learn, and support them along that journey. How we started was we would have met all the farmers online. Then myself and Katrina Fallon, who's the coordinator of the project, went to visit all the farms in the middle of COVID, and we were talking to them about what it is they wanted to learn. I went back as an artist then to either draw or chat to them further, and then we went on 8 different trips that look at diversification and options for the future. We went to visit an organic farmer. We went to the Burn and saw what they were doing there in terms of their EIP. We went to Glenillan and saw how they developed from making yogurts in their kitchen to a big company, employing lots of people. And then to Top of the Rock, which was an agri-tourism business down in Cork. Went to see Gerard Maher and Donald Sheehan's farms, who are both dairy farmers, farming for nature. We went to visit an anaerobic digester as well in Limerick. I visited the Killarney woolen mills and how they're generating their own electricity. And the Reeks project visit, looking at the Killarney Reeks and what's going on there in terms of protecting the environment. Also, other things come out of it, because I suppose the more people hear about the project, the more they're excited about it and wanted to be part of something else. So we were invited by Creative Ireland to create a 100-foot wall, as it turned out, at the National Ploughing Championship. And that was to create a wall on the Government of Ireland tent, basically, to ask farmers at the Ploughing Championship what they saw as the solutions for climate action and for protecting biodiversity. And the brilliant thing about that was that the farmers from Dingle came up for the day. So children, partners, farmers, all drawn on the wall, helping and everything else. And it was just fantastic. And they also did panel discussions, climate conversations, as part of the National Ploughing. For some people, that was their first time ever on a stage. And not only are you sitting on a stage, but you're also talking about something that's actually kind of big and massive, like climate change. And I was just incredibly proud. I thought, like, what a group of people. Then after the National Ploughing, we got the works. The 100-foot wall was transported by the OPW to IMMA, so the Irish Museum of Modern Art, for a 3-day festival called Earth Rising. I suppose a lot of people are very scared about the future because we don't know what it's going to bring. And I think that's why the role of artists is really important, because I always think with art, you can start with a blank canvas and you can create something. And so together, I feel it's really important that we create a vision of the type of world we want. And that, to me, is the magic of art, because something doesn't exist and suddenly as an artist you can create it. And it's almost like you can create momentum for people to move forward. And I really feel like there's a lot of scaremongering at the minute and a lot of people living out of fear. And for me, art can actually enable people to be empowered and to go, well, actually, no, the world that we want to see is like this. And artists, we can draw it, we can make films about it, we can sing about it, and we can create it together. And I think that that is the role of art, and that's what makes me really excited about this project. What's been really great, I suppose, about the project is the flexibility that we had to be able to shift and change. So I've been drawing a lot, and I've been using journals a lot and writing down different things that come up and trying to draw those so that people can use drawings to kind of see the future. But the other thing that's been great is this filming process and working with Chris Garris, filmmaker, to go around and meet the farmers and tell their stories, because we didn't know how it was going to evolve, but actually telling farmers' stories, I think, is really valuable. I think once you sort of see someone, whether it's in a film or face to face, and you hear their story, you're realizing, well, actually, you can kind of empathize a bit. They're working, they're trying to make a sustainable life for their family, their children, their partners. And farmers are no different to anybody else in that respect. But just life can be a little bit tougher and a bit kind of bleak out here on a wet, windy day. Some of the things that really impact farmers here in West Kerry is the extreme weather events. And extreme weather events when you're living in places that literally are on the open sea. The fact that walls are being knocked down, buildings, the roofs of buildings are threatened, the walls of buildings are threatened, they're trying to hold them down. The cost of all that, the cost of drainage, the cost of constantly having to repair walls, repair buildings or build new buildings, that's massive. And then I suppose we're also here in the Dingle Peninsula, we have the MaREIs, which is one of the most vulnerable areas in the country in terms of climate change, a tombola that's at sea level. So Aidan O'Connor, one of the farmers, would say that yes, they're farming effectively on a beach, on sand, because the tombola was essentially part of the sea. And now the sea is certainly making inroads and trying to claim it back. So that's a huge concern, where you're farming and you're living in an area where the sea is actually coming in on all sides. And it's very real. And when people talk about a metre of a sea level rise or something happening in 30, 40 years, a lot of these farmers are dealing with climate change every day. So when people say to me, farmers are not doing anything about climate change, I'm like, yes, they are, and they're living it, the reality of it, more than most people, and they're going to be impacted more than most people. So we need to be looking at practical solutions and things that people can actually do to sustain rural Ireland and to sustain communities farming here, because that's what farmers want. There's lots of different things that have come up for farmers, and one of the things that is really challenging is this notion of cheap food. Do you know that supermarkets are using food as a lost leader? They're bringing people in on this promise of cheap food, but I always say, like, there's no such thing as cheap food. Somebody somewhere is paying the price, and unfortunately the price we're paying in Ireland is that we're putting growers out of business every day by our actions. As one of the farmers said the other day at the ploughing when he was on stage, he was asked about the future. The way we're going, he said, there will be nobody growing vegetables in Ireland, and you will be buying food and vegetables from supermarkets that is all imported, because that is the way it's headed. In terms of the meat producers, there's no abattoir here in the peninsula. A lot of the control has been taken over by a factory system, and that's really frustrating for farmers, because it's, you know, how do you control prices? How do you ensure fairness in the system if it's kind of dominated by a monopoly? One of the big things that's come out of this, and probably the thing that we didn't really anticipate, was the sense of community that was building through this project. The farmers have become friends, their children are probably hanging out through this project, and that was the thing that they said that most surprised them. because we've had so many different events at this stage. We had a really cool event, Voices from the Field, in the Dingle Mart, because the Mart is a community space owned by farmers, so it was really important to do an event there. We did that earlier in the year, and we also had dinner in Katrina's house one night where we all brought food and we talked about the future and ideas for the future. We had a fantastic event for the Dingle Food Festival called the Farmers Forum, which is an annual event, but we kind of hosted that this year. And it's all about building community, you know, building community of these farmers, but hopefully extending that out to other farmers as well. Well, initially we started with 10 farmers, and I suppose some of them were a little bit, you know, sceptical, going like, really, like, what is this going to be about? And they're going to be working with an artist, and they're like, oh, we'll chance it, you know, we'll give it a shot. And rightly cynical, I suppose, because none of us really knew where it was all going to go. But I suppose what's been absolutely magical about it is that we started with 10 farmers. Now we have most of the partners involved, and we have a lot of the children involved. And that is just wonderful, because then it's intergenerational, and that is where the change really happens. One thing I've noticed about this project is in a lot of the families, it's the daughters who want to farm, or the daughters who have been farming as children. And I think that's really exciting, you know, that farmers can then, you know, hopefully figure out a way to make their farm sustainable and hand that land over to their daughters, their sons, or whoever they want to hand it over to. But it's been extraordinary, the level of engagement. We've had pretty much 100% engagement at every single event. It's amazing. I think it's probably exceeded their expectations, and it's certainly exceeded mine. You know, it's wonderful. So as part of the project also, we made 10 films. So Chris Gareth, cameraman, brilliant cameraman, and Clint Fitzgerald then edited them. But we decided that it was really important to hear farmers' voices directly. So we made like literally 10 profiles of each of the farms, and asking farmers what it was that was important for them to say. And then we literally shot that. It was a sort of a participatory filmmaking where we did it with them. And then they were screened at Onadon Blascade, over 100 people at that event, Gohana on North, so the voices from the field, the voices of farmers. And the farmers had all seen their own films, but they hadn't seen each other's films. So it was quite powerful on the night. I think they really appreciated seeing each other. And then we had a fantastic audience and great local food. So it was a brilliant night, and I think exceeded all our expectations. I don't want it to end, you know, it's been really cool, and I feel like we've really lovely relationships built up and really cool friendships, and we have our WhatsApp group, you know, and it's kind of like, for me, really successful projects are where it's, yes, the work is there, but the relationships and the friendships are there just as much, do you know what I mean? And I think we all really genuinely care about each other, and I don't want it to end. I'm hoping that there'll be more work come out of this and we can stay connecting. I can't see it just ending, you know, because it's just been too amazing and the people are just great. I think that we'll continue in some form.